Start. We have main engine start.
To be on MTV during its high point in the 80s to early 90s was a way of finding out you made it in the music industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll.
Having your hard work and your face on the small screen in everyone's home, and it getting translated to radio play and record sales. It was a time to make music back then. But to be banned off of MTV was another feat of notability. You would have to do something really raunchy or taboo to not have your video be played on the channel. One way of doing it was by making an obscene gesture like flipping off the camera and dying in an electric chair, just like Lemmy did in Motorhead's music video for Killed by Death. How provocative. Or of Soundgarden's Jesus Christ Pros, where they had a woman be crucified. And we also have 9 Inch Nails' Happiness is Slavery, which is just
CBT.
And then there is today's video. This one, compared to the others, is so vile, so callous, so tasteless. Its banning was deemed justified by the channel. This video mentioned Pepsi. Okay, so that seems to be a ridiculous statement to make, but I am not exaggerating by how controversial this music video was for MTV at the time. And more so, its banning causing an even bigger response. And so for this video, we are looking at Neil Young's This Note's For You and its subsequent banning off of MTV.
This note's for you. What's happening? It's very confusing. I just started playing this, get my thumb caught in it all the time. I just started playing this thing.
This is Canadian rocker Neil Young performing in 1971 with his then new song, Heart of Gold. It would later become his only #1 hit in the United States.
That keep me searching for a heart of gold.
Having stints in acts like Buffalo Springfield and Crosby, Stills and Nash, his later solo career yielded him great commercial and critical success. Particularly his 1972 album Harvest, which Heart of Gold was the lead single. By the end of the 70s, however, Neil's output became more different.
I'm wondering if you'll come home.
In the 80s, this was an absolute low point in the rocker's career. Each album was less and less commercially successful. From the pop synth sound and trance, to the pure country sound of Old Ways.
Lately I've been finding out I'm set in my way.
And most bafflingly, the rockabilly sound of Everybody's Rocking.
Everybody's rocking. Well, everybody's rocking. Everybody's rocking, rocking to the dancing beat.
The last album, by the way, had Young get sued by his record company, Geffen, for intentionally producing uncommercial music. The suit backfired, by the way, and label owner David Geffen apologized to Young. It was just not a good time for the rock star. Like his previous albums, he wanted to do something different for his 16th. And different he did. While on tour with his backing band Crazy Horse, he decided to add a blues set during his concerts, which received positive reception. And so because of the warm responses he got, he set out to make his next album be more blues-based. And so This Note's For You was made, originally credited under Neil Young in the Blue Notes. That credit was eventually changed to just Neil Young due to legal threats by Harold Melvin and his group The Blue Notes. Julian Temple was hired to be the director, having directed videos for acts such as Sex Pistols, Judas Priest,
Breaking the law, breaking the law, breaking the law, breaking the law.
The Kinks,
Come burn
Satire,
No need to ask, he's a smooth operator.
and many others.
Live from Los Angeles, California, it's the MTV Video Music Awards.
Now, Temple was a very popular director at the time, and he made so many notable videos at this point that in 1987, he received the Vanguard Award at MTV's Video Music Awards. The same night, Peter Gabriel got his for his work on Sledgehammer. But by 1988, Temple was also at a low point in his career.
You hear what I hear? Do you see what I see?
His first feature film, Absolute Beginners, which starred the likes of David Bowie and Ray Davies of the Kinks, was a critical and commercial failure, and was responsible for the closure of its production company, Goldcrest Films. Both he and Young needed another hit under their belts. Writing for the music video, meanwhile, was done by Charlie Kofi, who had co-wrote the script for Temple's second film, the cult classic Earth Girls Are Easy, also released in 1988.
I'm going home with him.
And so, with a $115,000 budget, these three men set out to make a music video. One that ended up being the most controversial video of 1988.
Got the real thing, baby.
July 1988, 3 months after the release of the album, the music video to This Note's For You was completed. The record company Reprise, by this point Young left Geffen to join back with his old label. They submitted it to MTV to have it be shown on the channel. But there was a snag. MTV rejected the video. Why would that be? It's not violent. Is it because of it being too sexual? There were girls in bikinis, but it's not too provocative. Was it the song itself?
This note's for you.
Neil is not swearing in the song. So what could possibly be in the video to elicit this response? The first minute of the video is just setup. Neil Young walks to a bar to perform the song. No way they had a problem with this part. But it does raise the question, is the video just Young singing at a bar? Yeah. We do see Neil Young performing This Note's For You at a bar with the Blue Notes backing him. But this isn't what the entire video is focused on, as we see Neil begin to sing.
Ain't singing for Pepsi. Ain't singing for Coke. Makes me look like a joke. This note's for you.
Okay, I just figured it out. Neil Young straight up murdered artists in this video. I'm not exaggerating, he goes hard at calling out Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston in this. And more importantly, the music video is not just calling out Pepsi and Coca-Cola.
Ain't singing for Miller. Don't sing for Bud.
But the entire advertising practice. Now I do want to mention that the music video is going to require a lot of context for what happens in it, because this video is a time capsule. In the 80s, there was a rising trend for musicians to have their music be licensed out for advertising. Eric Clapton and Steve Winwood would be in ads for Michelob and have their songs used. Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston would be promoting soft drinks like Pepsi and Diet Coke. But also around this time, there were news stories about acts that rejected offers for their songs to be used. One famous example was Bruce Springsteen rejecting a $12 million ad for his song Born in the USA be used for a Chrysler commercial. Meanwhile, Neil Young, unsurprisingly, did not like this commercialization of songs one bit. And as such, This Note's For You, the song, is his response to the practice. And he is definitely blunt in his opposition to the commercialization. He is not hiding his contempt towards specific artists one bit. Julian Temple, who has also directed many commercials, was enthused with making fun of how contradictory ads were, citing Miller ads with using models to sell, using his words, awful beer. When it comes to its execution, the music video kills at sending its message. The satire has really funny moments throughout as well. Having Neil Young sing at a bar also fits in with the blues motif the album is based on. It is definitely another well-made video by Julian Temple, and props to Charlie Coffey for the well-made jokes. But while making fun of celebrities is always a good time, the video does get mean-spirited at one point. It references one of Michael Jackson's darkest moments in his career when his hair got set on fire during filming of a Pepsi ad. He later suffered second-degree burns and required surgery to cover up the scars. Michael Jackson and Pepsi later settled in court, but the damage was very much permanent. An absolute tragic moment to think about, but pretty shocking how this video just makes fun of an experience that almost killed Jackson. So that has to be the reason why the video got banned, right? More than likely, Jackson found out about this and got pissed off that this was used as a joke, and bam, rejected from MTV. And that's what I thought until I read the official statement. General Manager to MTV, Lee Masters, gave a statement to the Los Angeles Times explaining the decision. He starts by expressing his love for the video. I must admit I feel awkward defending our decision because I happen to think it's a fantastic video. Everyone in programming loved it. It's spectacular and it's really funny. Always a good sign that there was love for the video while it gets junked. He continues. First, our attorneys advise us against playing it because of its use of likenesses of Michael Jackson and Spuds MacKenzie would leave us open to copyright infringement charges. Since then, Warner Brothers' legal department, Warner owns the Reprise label, has offered to indemnity us against any claims, but our attorneys still felt that might not be enough protection. Two things I want to point out. One, they were afraid of the usage of Michael Jackson's likeness having them be liable for copyright infringement, but why not be afraid of Whitney Houston as well? This seems odd to specifically mention one artist and not the other. My guess is they said that as they didn't want to imply the notion they would be suing them for depicting the hair burning in the video. But it was 1988. Parodying Michael Jackson seemed the way to go. The same year this video came out, Weird Al Yankovic would release his 5th studio album. Michael Jackson gave us bad, Weird Al gave us even worse. And the obvious parodying of Jackson continued with his single Fat. It's pretty obvious that the album cover song and music video are clear parodies of Jackson's bad album cover song and video. But here's the difference. Weird Al always asks for permission from the artist to make a parody of their song.
You check with the artist too. You have conversations with them and say, hey, what do you think? I'm thinking about parodying your song.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have to legally, but you know, that's one of the reasons I think I've been able to hang around as long as I have, is I don't burn bridges and I want to make sure they're in on the joke.
If he wasn't allowed to, he wouldn't do it. This included Fat.
All your parodies are so wonderful. Are people thrilled that Michael Jackson just call you up and go, that's hysterical?
He actually gives me permission to do the parodies, and on top of that, for the Fat video which you saw, that was his set. So he let me use that, which is really nice.
And I might be too hung up on this, but again, making fun of Michael Jackson's skull being torched would probably not have gotten clearance. Did people not realize the severity of the incident at the time? Second point, Spuds MacKenzie.
Get a load of him.
Well, there's a super party animal. His name is Spuds MacKenzie.
In 1987, there was a campaign by Budweiser where they had a bull terrier named Spuds MacKenzie be their mascot to promote Bud Light.
But you're an animal.
Go, go, Spuds, go, go.
A really popular character at the time, and is still referenced well after its retirement from ads in 1989.
Hey, look everybody, it's Spuds MacKenzie.
It's important to note this, as it wasn't just musicians and the commercials this video was making fun of. It was commercials in general at the time. Now, I wasn't born until the 90s, so a couple of moments throughout I didn't realize was a parody. I knew of Spuds MacKenzie being a mascot for Budweiser at the time. Michael Jackson promoting Pepsi is a well-known fact. What I thought was just a regular opening for a music video is actually mocking the Michelob ad Eric Clapton did. That sequence was pretty shot for shot. Another moment in this video is of a guy pushing construction workers to the ground and biting a beer bottle's neck off. Oh, funny! Without context, this came off as random and surreal.
Excuse me! And there ain't nothing I like better than hanging out with my friends and sharing some Miller Lights.
But again, this was a reference to a beer ad. More specifically, a Joe Piscopo ad.
I love it because it tastes great.
An odd choice considering Piscopo is a comedian and not a musician. But as good as these parodies are, I would concede that this makes the video dated. But at least the message Young was trying to send wasn't. Now, Warner Brothers offered a compromise to get the song on MTV. They suggested a different version of the video being made for the channel, just having Neil Young perform the song without any cutaway to the impersonators. It would have made the video more generic, but it would have been a solution. But that leads into the bigger reason the video got banned. The idea of Michael Jackson threatening legal action isn't the only reason, nor is it the primary. As it turned out, MTV had a policy where they would refuse to air music videos that would have product placement in them. An example of this would be a video that had a Coke can in a shot, then the video would not be shown on there. Basically, they wanted to be different from how Hollywood had product placements in films and TV shows. But apparently this policy also included not allowing songs with products mentioned in the lyrics to get any airtime. And they acknowledged that the use of the products in the lyrics were done in humor, but they didn't budge. Lee Masters continued, "I agree that it's a spoof, which is what I argued with our standards execs, but I lost the argument. Standards feel that if we appeared inconsistent, other record companies would want exceptions down the road. So even if they were to change the music video to just be Neil Young singing, they would still have been banned under this policy. And they seem to have been very strict on this policy and very hostile towards the video. A vice president to the company was also quoted to have said the video contained blatant product placement. Blatant product placement. Look, I understand where MTV is coming from with not wanting product placement in music videos. You want to be better than the Hollywood elite?
Sure, we all do.
But does one honestly think that referencing Michael Jackson on Fire would help promote the sale of Pepsi? Or Coca-Cola being dumped on the lookalikes' head? Clearly this video is not telling people to go out and have a Budweiser. It's certainly not making me want to go out to get the new Calvin Klein scent. By the way, they also parody Calvin Klein's famous Obsession ads.
She was a fever from which I will never recover. All heat.
Forgive me, but I am prettier than all of you.
Liar. Give me back my shoes.
Ah, if I could only pluck her brows.
And they are hilarious. Well, apparently the policy goes both ways. MTV's CEO Tom Preston made his own statement, clarifying what they don't allow on the channel. We don't allow positive or negative mentions of products. If we made an exception for Neil Young, I'd have a hard time going to Budweiser and say we're going to allow negative references to you, but not positive ones. Hold on a minute. This just raises a new issue.
You know, parents are the same no matter time, no place. They don't understand that.
Around the time This Note's For You got banned, the video to Parents Just Don't Understand by Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff was playing on the channel. And Will Smith was just as blatant as Neil Young was in his song.
They left the keys to the brand new Porsche. They mine. Well, of course not. I asked her for Adidas and she bought me Zips. We hit McDonald's, pulled into the drive. We ordered 2 Big Macs and 2 large fries and Cokes.
There was a strong argument made that this song made positive references to mentioned products. This was pointed out to MTV that they had previously aired music videos that mentioned product placement. So why did they air this over This Note's For You? They had another excuse. As one spokeswoman told The Village Voice, the exceptions are when the mentions or the placements are essential to the culture of the music. So wait, you do give exceptions?
Okay, here's the situation.
Also, what the hell does that mean? Essential to the culture of the music? Are they saying Adidas, Porsches, and McDonald's are essential to hip-hop culture? How? Actually, I don't like what this is implying. Another problem MTV had was that this was all started from miscommunication. Neil Young's manager Elliot Roberts said that he sent the song and the video script to MTV and got approval. Meanwhile, Lee Masters said the standards board rejected the video, but Masters approved it after Roberts phoned him. This just adds to the pile of incompetency MTV was making for the problem they had gotten themselves into. Let's go back to the video itself. Everything about this is made to spoof advertisements at the time, right down to the title. This Note's For You is a play on of This Bud's For You.
Taste of Beechwood aged Budweiser.
Neil Young also made it clear he would never want money from ads. Yes, he says Coke and Pepsi, Miller and Bud, but they never actually appear in the video. Not even a can or a logo to be seen. Temple and Young made sure that these products would never have any screen time in the video, showing their integrity, no doubt. And to really drive this point across, the video ends with Neil clearly displaying his rejection of sponsorship. He does this by drinking a can that says he's sponsored by no one, and MTV had a problem with this. This did not sit well with people. Critics at the time were not kind to MTV for their decision. Accusations of censorship were flung at the station. Their integrity was challenged because of this. Marvin Kittman, a Pulitzer Prize finalist for Newsday, wrote in his column on the banning, taking the time to praise the music video for its satire. One part in his condemnation, he raises an interesting point about the channel itself. When you stop to think about it, it's funny to think of MTV emerging as the only bastion of integrity. Here is a network that is a 24-hour commercial for records. Not a word is uttered that isn't a plug for something or somebody. And yeah, that's a good point. MTV is just an advertisement channel for songs. What's the difference? Reaction by the general audience for the channel is hard to find, but I would assume was just as negative. In one anecdote I found, a radio station polled their listeners about whether the video should be played on the channel, and they received an overwhelming yes. Big names in the entertainment industry, meanwhile, came out of the woodwork and voiced their support for the video. From YouTube manager Paul McGinnis to actor Jeff Daniels giving statements praising the video and condemning MTV's decision. And of course, Neil Young was not quiet about what he thought of the ban. Young wrote a 4-sentence open letter to MTV. It read, MTV, you spineless twerps. You refuse to play This Note's for You because you're afraid to offend your sponsors. What does the M in MTV stand for? Music or money? Long live rock and roll.
Thank you very much.
And there was an important facet to keep in mind during this controversy. This music video got banned off MTV. Just MTV. Sure, this was the biggest channel dedicated to music. Didn't mean that there weren't other places music videos could have airtime. Warner Brothers made sure to send out this video to many different places to let it get shown, and there were plenty of places to give the video a time slot. It aired on California's Z channel. It appeared on the variety show Night Flight. They also tried getting it shown during Saturday Night Live, which would have been interesting if they aired it, since it makes fun of one of their alumni. More importantly, there was one place where this video was shown. Yes, from Young's very own homeland, the Canadian juggernaut Much Music played the music video. And it was popular on the channel too, being shown 2 to 3 times a day. It was clear music video blocks, big or small, seemed to be pretty fine with airing the video. Maybe out of spite of MTV's ban, maybe out of fear of the backlash, maybe they actually liked the video. Whatever their reasoning for showing the video was, they made the right call in airing it. Back at MTV, they were facing a huge PR nightmare. Something you can laugh about now at modern MTV, but the channel really did come off as infallible during its early years. However, this made them look like they pulled the video because of their sponsors. And that is because they pulled it because of fear of their sponsors. After hearing the CEO remarking about Budweiser possibly getting miffed at a negative music video towards them, it's clear this was all about the money. And this incident showed a channel bowing to their advertisers. This negative backlash was something the less than a decade-old channel did not need. What once was a channel that looked to be appealing to a young, rebellious audience turned heel. There was no way to look past it. MTV rejected This Note's for You all because they thought it would affect their bottom line.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
With all the blowback they were receiving from Neil Young, critics, viewers, Warner Brothers, members of the entertainment industry, MTV could not handle the pressure brought down on them. And so, 1 month after their initial decision, they relented. They announced they would be lifting the ban of This Note's for You and air it on their channel. But here's the catch. When they first showed the whole video, they showed it during their August 19th, 1988 segment on their news program, This Week in Rock. Lee Masters said that their policy of banning videos for product placements had not changed. But since there was public interest in the video, I wonder why, they decided to make a news segment dedicated to this. Basically, they were reporting on an incident they caused in their news show, which ends up having them show the music video in their report. What a tedious way of doing this. But finally, This Note's for You got played in its entirety, and soon afterwards, it made it to the rotation, along with many other music videos. All was right in the world. But while it was able to have airtime on MTV, the song and video still left a huge impact. Musicians were questioned about their sponsorships with companies. One example was with David Lee Roth being asked by magazine NME in a December 1988 issue about his sponsorship with Toshiba. The interviewer cited This Note's for You in their questioning, to which Roth responded by calling the song hippie bullshit from the 60s. He also added, if your message is not strong enough to transcend a soda pop commercial, you've got problems. An interesting take to consider. And honestly, you can't really blame musicians for taking part in this practice. Especially with scummy practices to have acts get ripped off by companies as a consequence. As mentioned earlier, Bruce Springsteen rejected Chrysler's offer to use Born in the USA. But Chrysler still ended up hiring a jingle company to make a ripoff called The Pride Is Back, which was sung by Kenny Rogers. Other acts like Bette Midler and rap group The Fat Boys had to sue companies after they refused to take part in commercials. The Fat Boys sued Miller because they used lookalikes of them in a commercial that featured Joe Piscopo.
Taste flavor, let's fill it. Taste flavor, let's fill it.
What was with these Piscopo ads?
I am master of ancient art of karate, kung fu, and Chinese chapel.
They also sued Miller for infringing on their composition and video to their song Stick 'Em. At the time, the members of the Fat Boys were underage and did not want to send a message promoting underage drinking, which Miller ended up doing unintentionally. Oops. Bette Midler sued because a Mercury car ad used one of her backup singers to imitate her voice. And she won millions of dollars because of it. There are so many more examples that could be talked about. Needless to say, there were many dishonest tactics on someone's intellectual properties back then. Nowadays, it seems more commonplace to see musicians taking part in commercials than having their songs be used. You can't go on MTV or Twitch or YouTube these days without Lil Nas X or Billie Eilish ads. Even Springsteen eventually appeared in a Super Bowl ad in 2021 for Jeep.
And there's hope on the road up ahead.
And that is not getting into the massive presence of brands being in music videos now. We have come a long way from 1988 is what I am saying.
Live from Los Angeles, the 1989 MTV Video Music Awards.
Even while the video was allowed airtime on MTV, MTV did something I don't think anyone expected from them. Since it was shown on the channel, This Note's for You was eligible to be nominated for the channel's very own Video Music Award. Neil Young ended up picking up 2 nominations for the video, Viewer's Choice and Video of the Year. Seems to be a nice gesture for the company for leading him around for a while, and the video is good enough to be considered, but this is the same year they nominated Madonna's Like a Prayer for Video of the Year.
When you call my name, it's like a little prayer. I'm down on my knees. I wanna take you there.
That video is legendary. And while very controversial at the time too, and you can argue even now, it absolutely kills in every department when it comes to making a music video. Such a bigger and more well-known video nominated by one of the biggest stars on MTV. Speaking of MTV stars, Michael Jackson was also nominated for his song Leave Me Alone. As well, Steve Winwood and Fine Young Cannibals had their #1 hits be nominated to round out the category. And this is a motley crew of a selection. Neil Young is definitely the odd man out in this situation. But hey, this can be seen as a PR stunt anyway. To be nominated would show that there would be no hard feelings. But man, it looks so abundant that the odds are stacked in Madonna's favor. In what universe would This Note's for You be selected as Video of the Year?
For the best video of the year, yeah, Neil Young, This Note's for You.
In a move I don't think anyone expected, the VMAs chose Neil Young to win the top honor. Neil Young lost Viewer's Choice of Video of the Year to Like a Prayer, which had garnered 7 awards that night. So for this winning, it was surprising.
Hey, Neil's not here. Funny that. He's at Palladium in New York and he's on the video somewhere.
Though he was on tour at the time, they managed to let him say a few words via satellite.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody at Warner Reprise, my family.
And the speech went rather well. That is to say, before the audio cut out.
There's nothing like a live show, huh?
MTV said it was a technical error on their end. And while I do believe that to be the case, you can't help but think they wanted to make sure he didn't say anything extreme. By the way, the person who presented the award to Neil was actress Daryl Hannah.
New York, I'm Daryl Hannah.
Who would later marry Young in 2018. Amazing. The funny thing about this incident is that I barely talked about the song itself. Listening to it, it's not that great. Rather one note, actually. Yes, we get it, Neil. You aren't sponsored by anyone. What else do you have? An even bigger issue is that the duration is 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Compare that to double the length the video has at 4 minutes 21 seconds. You would find that there really isn't much substance in the tune itself. Visual aid was needed to make this worth listening to. So without the music video and the subsequent ban, no one would be talking about it. And probably this would have continued the trend of unsuccessful albums Neil was having in the 80s. If that is not irony, I don't know what is. So what about Neil Young after this controversy? Realistically speaking, MTV saying no, we don't want this video on our channel was the best thing that happened to him. It brought him back to the collective consciousness in music. This notes for you the album sold better compared to the previous releases he had. And more importantly, it galvanized him when it came to later works. The next year he released Freedom, an album that was widely praised by critics and was seen as his comeback. The album would go on to sell over 500,000 copies and be certified gold in the US by the RIAA, thanks in part to its single, Rockin' in the Free World. And this song is amazing.
Because I'm still in love with you.
Young continued to sell millions of albums in the 90s, with 1992's Harvest Moon being certified 2 times platinum in the US. Not to mention later garnering the title of the Godfather of Grunge and being well respected in the grunge scene, being one of Kurt Cobain's idols and playing songs with acts such as Pearl Jam. Truly, this was the best outcome to this whole controversy. If MTV did not see this video as violating their policies, or just not have the policies, there would not have been any blowback to the channel. It would have just been another video. But with their actions, MTV inadvertently changed the direction for Neil Young's career for the better. And it ended up making this video one of the most talked about music videos of 1988. So here's to you, MTV. Just like what Neil Young said after all these years ago, this note's for you. Thanks for your time.
This note for you.